Imagine a world where you make so much money that you are the one that determines what goes where and what is done with who and for how long. Imagine a world that you are so influential and so powerful that your generational wealth will far exceed your lifetime to the point that your great grandkids are going to reap your benefits. Imagine a world in which the influence that you've made on the United States resonates so much that literally conspiracy theories are based on your decisions and everything that you made. So, we're going to be talking about the Rockefellers, the Coaches family, and three other more that we're going to do in a two-parter. We're also going to be talking about BBLs. Yes, I know some of you are going to be pissed off about it, but your boy was right. And we'll talk about that as well. So tune in, stay tuned, get ready. It's going to be funny. It's going to be engaging, entertaining. Grab your coffee and let's get started. Good afternoon and welcome back, everybody, to Oscar's Cafe Corner. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. It's going to be an interesting one. The past couple of ones have been a little bit somber. I think the last one, was probably the most comedic one of them all. And before that was the Bad Bunny one, which apparently was a little bit controversial to some of you folks on social media. I get it. Not everybody wants to talk about race and differentiating or splitting anybody or races or ethnicities because we are all blended of in the same pot. We have no choice but to live within and around everybody in multicultural things and changes and things like that. But with that being said, then why is it okay for social media and for the media to do that, to divide and separate us? Why? Why does it do that? And let alone, why do some minorities themselves fall into the trap of either agreeing or having such a passionate take about just differences in general? And I get it. Everybody's totally different. Everybody's in their own world, right? Their own mind is their own planet and their own world. But before I dive in, I did want to kind of give a little bit of a brief snippet of what this episode is going to entail. So this one, we're going to kind of deviate a little bit into something that I've seen lately on the internet. And it's something that's gone on for a long time. And I think I've heard my nephews and a couple other family members all say the same thing, that there are key influential members of society and families that were at the very core of the United States. And because of their wealth, power, and influence, they have managed to somehow been able to manipulate and sort of change and alter the trajectory of the United States. What it does, the policies, the decisions as far as who is actually going to be president. So yes, I'm talking about the Illuminati. I know a lot of you are rolling your eyes, but I will be debunking some stuff because I think a lot of the legendary stuff on some of these folks is it stems from them being so powerful, them having so much influence, and where it all stems from, right? But before we go down that road, I kind of wanted to take a moment during this episode and kind of give you a brief snippet on two in particular. I'm going to do five in total, but this is going to be a two-parter. So this is part one. And I will be focusing on the two primary ones and then three, and then we can talk about who we think the new one is going to be as far as influence, right? And we'll get there. But before we dive into that, this week has been a little bit slow as far as progressing and as far as changing and as far as just it's been, I don't know, it's been slow and it's already in February. Fuck, dude. I mean, it's already February 19th, 2026. We're already, I think, approaching the third month of this year and we're done. Time's flying. And some of the things I wanted to talk about, I think it's funny to me that some of the things that I posted in a previous episode are now really pissed people off so much that they felt the need to really, really voice their opinion on it and their frustration. So we'll dive into that. And I'm referring to like BBLs, body augmentation, baby mama issues, and Why, Oscar? Why do you feel that way about women? That, why do you give that advice to girls and women, and why didn't you give that advice to men in regards to having multiple baby mamas or baby daddies? And I'll dive into that, right? So let's start off with number one. As y'all can see, the ambiance is a little bit changed. It's a little bit different here. So decided to do a background. It's still a work in progress. So the channel's slowly evolving and developing. The other great news is that we are up to 25,000 subscribers. So thank you for listening, for liking, sharing, subscribing, leaving comments, both negative and positive. It does not matter. As long as you are engaging with me, that's a form of engagement, because you're letting me know you don't like the episode. Whether you don't like to see this beautiful face or the content or the way that I express myself, to each their own, right? You're either going to like it or you're not. It is what it is. I can't please everybody. But one of the things I did want to talk about, number one, is, do you guys remember 2 episodes ago when I mentioned about body augmentation and the changes and why women do it? And it was funny because I got a lot of heat and a lot of slack, and I was talking about that episode with my wife about it before I posted it. And she had first initially told me, like, are you sure you want to go down that road? Because a lot of people are going to feel really passionate about it. But I felt that I wanted to speak on it. I mean, that's the whole point of the podcast, right? Like I mentioned before, until I'm blue in the face, I'm not going to tiptoe around what I want to say to you. I'm not going to be, and pardon my French, or cover your ears, I'm not going to bullshit you from watching this channel and letting you know what it is and then surprise you and blindside you with something else. It's a raw perspective, unfiltered, and this is where we are. But I did make a comment regarding BBLs that I personally find it not so attractive. I understand that it's a trend and that women do it. However, my opinion on it was that you need to be mindful of when you do it and whether your body is ready and the size and all these other things that you want to do, or whatever intention is and why you're doing it. It's entirely you and your decision. But I wanted to kind of dive into that just a little tiny bit, because when I was kind of reading the news, and when you have a podcast, you have to have a pulse on the media and what's trending and things like that, so you can speak on it and are able to engage with folks. And one of the things that popped up on my algorithm, the good old algorithm, sent me a post from comments that were made by Cardi B, the singer. And if you don't know who Cardi B is, she is a hip hop artist that is pretty famous right now. She's well renowned for a lot of multiple songs and CDs. Her background is a little bit, let's just say, leaves much to be desired, but the girl was grinding. The woman made her money, and much respect to her. And she's made herself into a millionaire, right? She's been highly successful. So I'm not going to hate on that. However, she has a tendency to make really bad decisions when it comes to relationships. So the previous one that she had before this one was the artist, I think that his name was Offset. And he was part of this old rap group called Migos. And they had a relationship, they had a child, and apparently during their relationship, he was unfaithful. He was untruthful. He cheated on her not once, but on multiple occasions. And it got to the point where she found out. They were trying to work through their relationship, but in the end, it just did not end up working out, and they ended up splitting and breaking up. So then that was that. And so she proceeded to enjoy the single life, whatever. And then she ran into Stefon Diggs. And if you don't know who Stefon Diggs is, he is the wide receiver for the New England Patriots right now as they stand. Phenomenal player. He used to be with the Bills, and he's just good. However, he has a particular bad reputation that a lot of the athletes that know him or know of him, basically, if you go into a locker room, and those of you who are, fans and have been in locker rooms before, there are certain individuals and people that you primarily want to shy away from, whether you think that they're a little bit sketchy, they make really weird decisions, they live their life a certain way that you're just not a big fan of, or they act a particular certain way within relationships. But anyway, looks like Cardi B did not get this message, and she ended up involved in a relationship with this gentleman. And they dated, they got married. I'm not really sure the details as far as they got married, but they got together. And when they got together, there was a rumor going around that Stefan Diggs was up to his shenanigans. The gentleman has had multiple baby mamas. People, again, I tell you that I tell you these things because as a male, because I'm telling you that maybe I know a thing or two about the male psyche and how it works, right? But for some reason, certain women just don't seem to understand or grasp that it's a red flag. Avoid it at all costs. When you have 3 or 4 or 5 different baby mamas and you don't live with none of them, dude. Again, ladies, public service announcement. Stop getting into those relationships and then wondering why they go to crap and then looking back and saying, oh, but he started off good. No, yes, he might be a good person, but he doesn't know how to balance a relationship. My man's got issues, commitment issues, monogamy issues. That's just what they are. Don't try to fix him. If he's in his 30s, if he's in his 40s and that's how he's living his life, he will always live his life that way. He won't change. He might be good as a relationship for a short term if you want to have some fun, but as far as him making you a wife or you making him into a legit husband, forget about it. He's already set in his ways. He's been single for too long, enjoying the life too long, and it is for the streets. My advice. So please listen. But anyway, so he hooks up with somebody else while they're together, and apparently the lady that he had an affair with, she had a kid who was at the Super Bowl as well, because Stefan Diggs, being how he is, invites his fling, I guess you can say, with his new baby mama, and Cardi B and him break up. Duh. Obviously, hold up, let me take a sip of this. So they break up, and he parts ways, or they part ways, and she's going one way, he's going the other, and that's just is what it is. Now, where this ties into the whole baby BBL aspect of it is that, as some of you know, she was a very big proponent of body augmentation, right? Doing things for yourself, for your body, for your self-reflection, and for your own self-confidence. However, she just recently came out in an interview that she wants to have them removed. And her reasons for it is because she wants to embrace her natural body, and she's going to work on herself. And again, I say this again to you ladies. If you have not worked on yourself, if you have your own demons and your own personal battles and your own coping mechanisms that are not healthy for you, work on yourself before you try to get into a relationship with someone else and try to fix them. It's just going to be a shit show. It's going to be a train wreck. You got to fix yourself, because especially if you have kids, your kids are watching you as an example and as the leader, matriarch or patriarch, that they're going to base their future relationships on you. You are going to be their tier. They're like who it's supposed to be. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. And so she went on this particular interview, and she basically said that she was going to work on herself, and she was trying to get herself ready. And she was going to go either back to the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico to get it removed. And I guess I've been looking more into that process and how it's done and why people are doing it. And apparently there's a big uptick in people having those implants removed because it's just not working out to what they thought. Again, like any sort of body augmentation and body change, it is a foreign object that you are putting into your body and introducing it into your body. Eventually, with time, you're going to have to do something about it. Either remove it, replace it, or God forbid, something happens, it leaks, you fall on the wrong thing. I mean, a lot of stuff can happen that is not good. But I just thought it was interesting that the trend now is going back the other way. I think another person also that spoke on that was Kim Kardashian or whatever. And again, I don't want to dive into that too much, but I just thought it was pretty interesting considering that I just spoke on the topic about 2 weeks ago, and now that's apparently what's happening. The other thing that happened this week also was the tragedy that happened in Rhode Island, the ice rink shooting, and the gentleman who was a transgender. and he unalived his ex-wife and his oldest son and shot up 2 other people who are currently in critical condition. So a little bit as to why I wanted to speak on this one in particular. Again, I'm going back to back on items that I know I'm going to get a lot of smoke from. People hate it when you speak on body augmentation and when you speak on this particular subject. So let's wait and see how this rolls out. I'm gonna get so much heat from this dude. I'm gonna get so much, but hey, it is what it is. So the gentleman, it doesn't matter. I guess it does matter. He was mentally ill, mentally unwell, and decided to have a vendetta against his ex-wife. Unfortunately, took matters into a really extreme way that I'm completely 1000% against. I feel that if you have some sort of problem or qualms against somebody or with someone, I think there's better ways to actually speak to that individual and try to address things in a much more healthier way, but not unalive them, let alone a child. Somebody who has a future and can do plenty more other things, and it was just unfortunate. But I speak on it because I tell you guys consistently, and I think a lot of people have said this the same thing, and I'm not hearing it enough. Be mindful and be wary of psyops in the media, okay? Again, for those of you first-timers tuning in, you have to be receptive, aware, and intelligent in the sense that you have to know what's being told to you through media channels. Be aware that certain channels and certain media platforms are very heavy, either left or right. So their narratives, where it comes to their headlines, their bullet points are going to be catered to one specific demographic. The other one does the opposite. But what I found interesting in this one was that because the gentleman's lifestyle of him, going through transition and being a transgender gentleman, a lot of haters and people that are fairly, in my opinion, very ignorant and do not know anything about the gentleman, they basically immediately stated and went on rants, whether it was on X or Facebook or other social media ways, saying, oh, it's always that group. It's always the same people doing the same thing. Now, again, I don't know what the hell that means to you if you are the one that wrote that, but I don't know where you're going to put everybody or one particular demographic or ethnicity or a group into one category. That's ignorant. So if you don't know nothing, don't speak on it. Because some of the comments that they were saying, it's because he's a leftist, because he's a Democrat, he's a liberal, or it's because he's part of that community, which is completely disrespectful to that community, by the way. But then you dig into it, and a lot of the stuff is surfacing that this gentleman actually was a very big supporter of the existing administration. So explain that one to me. You're going to go ahead and belittle the gentleman and automatically put him in this category when in reality you have not done your true research or found out that this person actually supported this administration. But you are good with making comments and just really talking down the guy and making it about politics. And this is the part that pisses me off. Why do we always make events like this political? Why is it, it's because it's the same folks? Why is it, it's because he's liberal, or it's because he's Republican? Why do we always do that? That is so stupid. Why do we always do that? What does that even matter? It's one mentally ill individual unaliving other individuals for whatever reason, just because he could not get his stuff together. That's really what it is. But yet they like, and I mean they, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But they like to split and divide a lot. And if you are listening to this channel and you listen to different podcasters and they say a lot of the same things, that you have to be mindful and be and smart and intelligent up here of the message that they want you to do. They want to separate us, right? They want to divide us because it's easier to put us in different boxes and different categories and have us bitch and complain at each other rather than actually working together to make an actual impact, an actual change. That's what they're scared of the minority of the few having a voice and coming together. Do you guys remember the Pixar movie? I think it was called Bug's Life, where it was the grasshoppers against the ants. And you remember there was a scene in that movie that one of the major grasshoppers, one of the leaders, they had like this big old party, like a bar where they would, him and the other grasshoppers would all hang out. And then the other person that was there, or the other grasshopper that was there, was making fun of the fact that they were bullying the ants. And he was belittling and really just dismissing the ant colony completely, saying that they were easy to push and manipulate and push down, and just basically make them feel like second-class citizens, third, fourth, and fifth, sixth-class citizens, like they didn't mean nothing. And then the main grasshopper basically slaps him in the back of the head, obviously, because what he said was very important. This is what I want you guys to listen, because this resonates. When those ants figure it out that they can actually outnumber the grasshoppers 20-1, the grasshoppers aren't really the majority. They're the minority. So when that minority gets a voice, wakes up, has some common sense, and actually moves the boat and car in the right direction, it can make change a positive way. But if we continue down this trend where we're being divided, this shooting of the Rhode Island victim, we make it all political in the person's life choices, whether they were transgender or not. That shouldn't even matter. What the hell does it matter whether the person was transgender or not? What the hell does it matter if they were Republican or if they were liberal? They committed a crime. They unalived his ex-wife and they killed a child. That's really what happened. And yet we want to make it political. Why do we do that? It's frustrating. It's like an imaginary, it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? It's just stupid. It's dumb. Stop doing that. So if you're allowing yourself to be kind of pissed off or feel some type of way about that, it's a psyop tactic. That's what they want you to do. Now, if it's a person that is currently during the transition, like a particular blogger out there that likes to be famous for riling up folks, that purposely stirs up the pot, then I get it. But if it's a person, a human being committing a crime, unaliving 3 other people, that's what it is. It shouldn't be their life choice or what the hell they're going through. They're obviously mentally ill for them to get to that point. The fact that you have to get up in the morning, get yourself dressed, go bathroom, eat breakfast, you actually nurtured yourself with the thought, your body was like, yeah, I'm going to be alive in a little bit. Well, I'm going to be alive tomorrow. And then you go ahead and pick up a gun and you go ahead and do what you do. Something there snapped that made you think that was okay. I mean, this guy probably went shopping the previous week. So obviously this wasn't planned this way. Obviously the gentleman probably bought food for the week, groceries. If you really think about it, that's how rough it is. That's how, like, it's insane to really think about it. But anyway, I digress. I just thought it was silly. So if you guys are listening or watching the media, stuff like that, just be mindful of stuff like that, because it's something that I'm starting to see more and more and more. And when you start realizing that it's a psyop tactic to get you against the other individual or the other party, it opens up your eyes more and it exposes more of how insecure that group is, that they are focused so hard on dividing us as a society rather than unifying us. So when you see those headlines, just think, all right? So let's talk about these 2 individuals here. So the first one that I'm going to be talking about is Mr. Who are we talking about now? So I will tell you, the first one is the Rockefellers, Mr. John D. Rockefeller, the founder of Standard Oil. Some of you recognize the name, some of you do not, but if you guys don't know who he is, I'll break it down to you in just a tiny bit. So, Mr. Rockefeller, Mr. John D. Rockefeller was born on June 8th, 1839 in Richford, New York. And in 1853, the family relocated. In the 1950s, this is when things changed. So for those of you that don't know, Mr. John D. Rockefeller had an affinity for business since he was young. His family sold grain, hay, and meat. He liked to go from place to place. He was a businessman. He was a salesman. But during that time, during the 1800s or late 1800s, there was a big uptick in the consumption of oil, and there was a big demand for it. So he took it upon himself to basically purchase an oil company, and he wanted to sell it and sell kerosene. And he partnered up with other like-minded individuals like himself, and they made up Standard Oil. Now, why that's important? It's because with Standard Oil getting so big as it did, the level of influence and power that these individuals, along with Mr. Rockefeller, had, they were able to control the prices of oil because they owned it all. So imagine having a full-blown monopoly on an item, on an object. Oh, wait, we do here in California. It's called PG&E. You basically dictate the price. You dictate the cost. And society has no choice but to accept it. So you're showing profitability year over year to the point where your wealth is exponentially getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And because you have more buying power, wherever it is you're getting your oil from, now you can negotiate at a much cheaper price. So your price stays up here, but the cost of your material is going down here. So that margin of money is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, why he became so influential? Well, around 1911, basically the U.S. Supreme Court, because of antitrust laws, because finally people decided to think, hey, maybe this is too much power for one individual to have. We're going to go ahead and break up this company and allow other people to do the same thing he's doing under different names. Well, because he had the biggest chunk, this is Mr. Rockefeller. He goes like this. He's all right. Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to break up my company, but I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to sell it. So he sold portions of those companies for profit, not at cost. So you made this gentleman, let's say hypothetical, his business is worth $100, completely all alone by itself. Each share, each piece is worth $1. So $1, 100 pieces. Then now he sells every piece of his business for $2. Get the math? By the time he's done selling all of his business, he had already made 100 times more money already just by him selling his business. So inadvertently, the U.S. Supreme Court made this man even more richer than he was. And with that wealth, with that money, then he says, all right, fine, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to have shares in all of these businesses that I just sold as well. So he's getting money from them, money from his company. So that's a lot of companies he sold his pieces from, and he's getting money out of all that. So the exorbitant amount of money this gentleman had in influence and power, you're talking about, he had political influence where basically if you wanted to be a senator, if you want to be a politician, and you needed some fundraising for your campaign, you would go to this man for money and support to back you. Now, these negotiations came twofold, right? So it came with, I'm going to help you achieve this goal, but in return, you're going to have to give me a kickback. If there is legislations in the future that are going to go against my business, I want you to pass legislation and completely dismiss it. So therefore, they levied any sort of taxes, any sort of sanctions or anything against his companies. They just looked the other way. I mean, he dictated his own success because of his influence. He just got too big, too massive. And then financial institutions started really leaning on him, and they wanted his money. So a lot of people were just influencing there. So now this is we created a monster. This is the Rockefeller family. So when he passes, towards the end of his life, he starts investing in philanthropy. He starts investing in different companies and different things like that. So his money gets even more exponentially, even bigger. So it's generational wealth, and his company to this day still exists. However, they're not the Standard Oil company, obviously, because everybody's gotten a piece, and we can't call it Rockefeller, so we have to name it a different name. So it's a power and influence in some of these companies that simply they have just changed their jersey, but deep down they're still the same foundation, still the same family. So now how this is tied into conspiracy. So a lot of folks that read into the whole Illuminati have an opinion that this family, or this gentleman in particular and his descendants, are part of this much larger organization that is currently running the country and the world as we see it. Now, it's not just him, it's other political people in different parts of the world that also have the same level of influence and power, and they're all working together for one common goal. And that is basically to keep us all down here and blind and not seeing what they're really doing, which is really tripling and quadrupling their own wealth. And that's where we're at. Now, that's one family. The other one that I want to talk about, and that is Mr. Fred C. Koch. His name is spelled Koch. And he was born in the 1900s. And now, where Rockefeller was a businessman, Harry Koch, or Fred Koch, thought about it a different way. He discovered a way to make the product better. So what he is known for, he is basically like the scientist out of all the entire wealthy families. So what he did, because oil, if you guys don't know the process, oil needs to be refined and cleaned so it burns cleaner, burns better, it burns more efficient. You get more bang for your buck per ounce. Less material, more use out of it, right? That's profits, right? Because you're still selling a big ass barrel. But if you can make that big old barrel go farther, that's where the money's at. So he discovered a technique in a way to refine the oil refining process, and made it so much smoother and way more profitable that companies like the Rockefeller, like Standard Oil Company, and all these other companies that sprouted up right after they broke up the company, they basically decided to use Mr. Fred Koch's technology to perfect their product. So he was in high demand. Then, because of his process, there was a lot of patents that a lot of people were saying, oh, that's our technology, and that's not really true. A lot of them fought him and took him to court in litigation, but because he had so much influence from his other friends, that he was protected as well. Because he was the mad scientist. He made things better. And to this day, even after his passing, because of his influence and ties to Rockefeller and other gentlemen that I will speak on the rest of this list, this is where we're at. So it's amazing to me that I hear these conspiracy theories, and I'm the biggest one, because sometimes I go down some of these rabbit holes that just drive me nuts. But in some retrospect, it's kind of ironic, in my opinion, that we have gotten so enamored, and the US has fallen in love so much with oil and so dependable on it, that any sort of idea that goes against it, because it would actually hinder any future development, they don't embrace new technologies unless there's profit to be made on the back end. And I say that because the one conspiracy theory that I am very, very big believer in is Nikola Tesla. And Nikolai Tesla, for some of you that don't know, he basically wanted to make electricity free. He was the inventor of alternating current, and you had Edison, who was the inventor of direct current. And for some of you that don't know the terminology of DC and AC, direct current means that current is going to go one way from point A to point B. With that has limitations. You can only squeeze so much juice out of one little area. Alternating current goes both ways, both this way and that way. You can pump way more juice because it's alternating. It's going back and forth. It's constantly being shared back and forth. So it stays in constant flow. There's no drop. With AC current, you can add way more lights to it. And that is the foundation of what we have now. Those were the main differences for those people that don't know. That's what it means. There's a quick little lesson. But apart from that, he wanted to embrace a technology that would use the electricity that surrounds us. And again, it's really complex, so I'm not going to dive in down that rabbit hole, but he made it a point where basically electricity would be wireless and free for the entire planet. His investor at the time, which was JP Morgan Chase, yes, from Chase Bank, was one of his biggest initial investors. And when Mr. JP Morgan Chase found out that Mr. Tesla was going to be creating a technology that was going to be wireless, there was no profitability in it for Chase. So he backed out and left Tesla broke. And in the process, basically, they belittled his name. They threw him under the rug. They basically said the guy's crazy. He's a psychopath. So a lot of other investors, again, because of influence, nobody wanted to give him money. And eventually the guy passed away broke. But however, with some of the craziest inventions you can think of that just never made it. And if you guys are wondering why Mr. JP Morgan Chase was against it, electricity, was because the wire that was made for electricity at that time, one of the biggest one of the biggest factories that made the wire that people used for electricity back then was owned by JP Morgan Chase. The plastic cover over the wire to protect it, the shield, that factory was owned by JP Morgan Chase. The railroads that product and material was being shipped from East Coast to West Coast was owned by JP Morgan Chase. So him backing up Tesla and allowing Tesla to create that type of technology was going to have ridiculously bad consequences on his business. So again, we chose profitability and greed over the advancement and technology of society. And this is why we are where we are. But at the same time, now that 2026 comes around, then comes Elon Musk, creates a company called Tesla, ironically, who creates an electric car that actually looks good. And then he doubles down. He buys social media companies, makes them more profitable, cuts down a whole bunch of labor. And not only that, then he triples down and creates his own basically space company called SpaceX and creates a reusable rocket that NASA uses and other people have used, and gets even more wealthy to the point where now he is currently, I think as he sits, I think he's either the richest or second wealthiest man in the entire planet. The dude is worth trillions and trillions of dollars by creating a technology that is efficient, reusable, and green. It's the same shit that Mr. Tesla wanted to do years ago. So you can see the trend where society's finally now being accepting to the fact that things might change. Now, where it comes back to the whole influence thing and the whole aspect of it is, what sort of influence do these folks have now? And it's scary to think that you have societies out there and families out there that have this level of backing and this type of fear that they make decisions to impact you and me. And the impact that they have, and this is why the psyops jobs are such a big deal and such a big thing for me, is that when we see things on the media and when we see things on the news, being mindful that this shit's been filtered 20, 30, 40, 50,000 times before you and I see it. There is different versions of every report and every single draft that you've seen. There's a lot of that. So don't easily fall into that narrative. And now, this is the way that this particular administration works, and this is the way that I've noticed that this country, unfortunately, as much as I love it, it's what it does. But then you go to different areas, you go to different countries, and you get a whole different version of the U.S. political view that it's going to blow your mind. World history being told from other countries about the U.S. is very, very, very different. But you know that term is that, history is written by the winners, not by the ones who lost the war. Yeah, there's that. But before I leave, I did want to bring up something too as well, and that is a video that I saw about Michael Jordan. And I should have put this in the very first part of this episode, but we still have a little bit of time. So have you guys seen that video from Michael Jordan at the Daytona 500 after his race car won the Daytona 500 and what he was doing? If you don't know, I have strong feelings about that. And my advice is to anybody who's listening, and as a parent, do not let anybody, whether joking or not, just grab your kid in any way, shape, or form. Just don't. The optics, the intentions, whatever the hell it is, or the reasoning behind it, just don't. And I'll explain why. You are the one that sets that boundary for your child, what they will be allowed or what they're allowing. And if you're allowing random adults, grab your kid and just manhandle them, that is what they're going to be okay with. So when somebody does it to them, you've completely removed that entire boundary altogether. So for this kid in particular, if it had been any of my kids, number one, that would never have happened. I would have been in jail. Number two, my children would have immediately ran to me or told the gentleman to stop, because they understand boundaries. I don't care who the hell you are. You're not going to be okay with it, and should never be okay with it. But then the part that pisses me off is like the dad comes out and defends Jordan, obviously, because he's cutting his paycheck. But at some point, you need to make a moral decision whether are you going to take that paycheck and you're going to sacrifice your kid from that happening to them, and if not with ill intent from Jordan, but from another adult. What are you going to allow? What are you allowing? Because that kid is going to be an adult, right? They're going to be a teenager at some point. They might think it's okay to do that to another individual, to another person, to another child. And that's not good. I mean, we got to have boundaries, folks. I mean, there's so much exposure in social media where there's zero boundaries at all. You see stuff on social media, and if you have a shitty algorithm, you see stuff popping up on your feed that you're just like, what the hell is this? Yeah. Boundaries, folks. Respect that. And to Mr. Michael Jordan, man, come on, dude. I don't care what intention you had behind it, man. It's a kid. It's somebody else's child, bro. You don't got to grab him in any way, dude. Just leave the hell alone. Just walk away. You're a freaking billionaire, man. Just stop. So that's my advice to you guys. And also, the other thing is, I'm noticing a lot with the shootings, like what happened in Rhode Island, with what recently happened yesterday, a few days ago, with Shia LaBeouf, the actor, and having a complete breakdown and meltdown. And those of you who don't follow Shia LaBeouf, he's one of the actors that was in the movie Holes a few years ago. And he's a phenomenal actor, don't get me wrong. But my guy has a lot of demons. He's had substance abuse problems. And seeing him before he had a breakdown with a beer in his hand, it really saddened me to see, because as a person who is currently dry myself, I've now been sober for about 9 months. And well, hold up, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. Yeah, 7 months. I've been dry for 7 months. When alcohol takes a hold of you, it changes not only your decisions, but it changes you from the inside. It changes you in a way that it's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for your family. And I'm not saying that it's bad to drink at all, obviously in moderation. But if you find yourself consuming alcohol because you're trying to numb something else, then I recommend that you look into that, because that's not normal. And I know a lot of us, a lot of men in particular, are pretty stubborn because we never like to accept when we're going down the rabbit hole. But if you find yourself the itch and the urge to have a drink every single day, that's not healthy for you at all, long term. It's good to have a nice cold one maybe after a hot day. But so just be mindful and be wary of that, right? Because it could get really sad pretty quick. Because at the end of the day, if you are just coping just to numb yourself from an existing problem that you might have, or whether it's you being late on a payment, whether it's you arguing with your spouse, or whether it's you just not wanting to be a responsible parent because you have kids, just don't do it. It doesn't end well. The last and final thing before I go out, this message, because I've been hating on women for so long, I'm going to reach to the men out here. Gentlemen, if you have multiple baby mamas and you are not with any of them, stop doing that. You are bringing innocent kids and children into this world that are going to be fatherless. And what I mean by that is fatherless in the sense of not being there to teach them how to do things the right way, not be a proper man, and not being a gentleman. And if you were to put yourself in their shoes, and if you were a child at one point, and if you saw your dad do the same thing, you would be completely against it. So again, I'm a big advocate for breaking the cycle. Break the cycle, because if you have multiple women in your life, if you are having multiple children without protection, you are creating individuals that are going to be a reflection and a mirror of you. So find yourself and look in the mirror and self-reflect that you might have a problem with something else that you're trying to cover up by being in these relationships with zero monogamy or zero interest. If all you're looking for is just the physical aspect of it, of the act, take the proper measures so you don't bring in an innocent child, because that little human being is going to need love and care, and they're going to need two parents to make this work. Now, I get it, things happen if it's one or two, but if you are the type of individual that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11, or 12, bro, I'm sorry, man, I don't have no respect for you. I know. And I know this is probably going to trigger a lot of folks, but it is what it is. But that being said, ladies, make better choices as well. All right. So I hate to go down this public service announcement road, but I feel like I got to talk about it too, because I can't be hating on the women all the time either. You know, women are queens and they should be treated as such, but kings are also kings. There are great men out there. And if you women in particular say you want nice guys, but you don't like to date nice guys, then look in the mirror as well if you figure out why you can't have relationships. Because the nice guys are probably not interested in you either. Because if you can see through them, supposedly, because they're boring, they can see right through you. That you're just in it for one thing. And ladies, again, treat your body like a temple and respect it. And guys, do the same thing. Because at the end of the day, if we do have kids of ourselves, they are watching every single act that we do. So don't be surprised. So anyways, with that being said, we're going to tune in next week's episode. Thank you very much for listening, and have a great evening.